a popular antibiotic. It can do permanent damage. Hundreds of thousands of people reporting side effects about this drug to the FDA.
Now, the I-Team's Courtney Garish has been following this story for several years. Courtney, there are now more warnings about these drugs.
There are, Carol, and this has been a long process. The FDA first started issuing warnings about side effects for a class of antibiotics called fluoroquinolones 10 years ago. After our first story aired in 2016, the FDA updated labels on these drugs to include possible permanent side effects for things like nerve damage. The latest warning issued last month included mental health risks. We talked to a local mom still trying to heal after taking one of these drugs. She questions if all of this is enough to protect people.
I'm still experiencing chronic pain, fatigue.
5 years ago, Kelly Love was prescribed Cipro for a bacterial infection.
I still have tendon issues.
5 days into taking the drug,
Still deal with nerve pain.
this mom of 4 boys says it felt like a bomb went off in her body.
I was mobile and fine, and the very next day I wasn't able to get out of bed.
Doctors were stumped. Kelly ended up at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota.
I'm thankful that I did have a doctor that finally was able to diagnose it and had knowledge of it.
Kelly was told she had a severe reaction to Cipro. Back then, there was only one warning for this class of antibiotics called fluoroquinolones, or FQs.
The labeling that they had with tendon damage and that was never brought up to me.
Since then, the FDA has added more warnings to these drugs for possible permanent side effects to joints, nerves, and muscles. But Kelly still doesn't think it's enough.
I don't feel like it's going to change things.
In 2016, the FDA also advised restricting the use of FQs to treat uncomplicated infections. The government agency said fluoroquinolone should be reserved for those who do not have alternative treatment options.
There's a disconnect happening between what they're ruling and what's happening with the doctors, because doctors are still prescribing it for urinary tract infections, sinus infections.
We think the warnings in the labeling now are quite clear.
Michael Carome is the director of Public Citizen in Washington, D.C. The consumer advocacy group has petitioned the FDA to strengthen warnings on more than 50 drugs.
Well, it's been a long road with fluoroquinolones and getting to this point.
Absolutely. As it is with many drugs, unfortunately.
Carome feels most doctors should be aware of the dangers when it comes to FQs, but warns patients also have to do their research.
To the extent that, unfortunately, there are doctors who fail to do that, to meet those responsibilities, then an informed patient is an important protection.
This is another one I shared from the UK.
Kelly is still struggling from the side effects of Cipro.
Still can't do the things that I'd like to do with my family.
And isn't sure she will ever be the same.
I hope that I will be able to improve, hopefully have more energy for life.
There are a lot of FQs on the market, many of them generic. Some of the brand names for the drugs are Cipro, Avelox, and Levaquin. One note, the manufacturer of Levaquin just stopped production of that drug late last year.
Okay, people have a bad reaction to these drugs. How often do the people in charge, FDA and whatnot, actually hear about that? Not very often. According to Public Citizen, drug reactions are underreported. The group would like to see more doctors even reporting these events to the FDA. They think the more information the FDA has, and the quicker the agency can act. Makes sense.
Yeah, very scary. Courtney, thank you very much.